This college football playoff wide receiver would be the perfect addition to the end of Baylor's transfer portal window, and the Bears might already have the inside track. Let's get locked on Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Bears fans. Welcome to another Transfer Portal Friday here on Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Game Time. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate you making this your first listen today and every day. Of course, it's Friday, so we're going over some portal news. We're going to throw in some recruiting in there as well because of the big commitment from London Smith this week and what that means for the Bears in terms of the bigger picture and how much we even need to focus on recruiting. We're going to go over all that and more on this episode of Locked On Baylor. I'm going to be very honest with you guys, as I think I always am. I'm always straight up front with you guys, no matter what. Even if I'm like, hey guys, I don't quite understand all of this yet. We get through it together. We get through it together. That's why you guys are a great fan base. You help me out. Sometimes more pointed encouragement than other times. That's great. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was fully expecting this to be, or last week actually, to be like the last true transfer portal Friday for a while. Just because the window's closing, we were supposed to have everyone in last weekend from the college football playoff teams. And then we were going to do something else for Fridays and then kind of come back to it the closer we got to spring ball and start to look at some people who might go out there. Because, people will enter intend to enter the portal between now and then. So that was like, I'm ready to put this on the shelf because all the playoff teams had already put their guys out, obviously with Calvin Simpson-Hunt last week. Baylor really has a nice pickup at the end of the window. But with this portal stuff, man, people just enter in it all the time. Like the dates mean nothing. They just keep entering the portal. And that is what we had once again this week because Pete Nakos of On3 reporting that Cam Camper of Boise State has withdrawn his name from the NFL draft and is entering the transfer portal. Now, it could be tough for him to, play in terms of spring ball because the semester started. I honestly, personally think there should be a way for these guys to practice with the team without being enrolled in school. It sounds weird and very counterintuitive to what we do in college athletics, but I think that's a fair enough thing. As long as they intend to enroll in school there, I think that's perfectly fine. But be that as it may, he's someone who comes in pretty late in the cycle here after the date of when you're supposed to enter and well after even all of the state schools have started school. They did that like 2 weeks ago. So he's not really going to be able to enroll in school anywhere. But Cam Camper was the leading receiver on a college football playoff team. Okay, a top 4 seed, back-to-back conference championships, Mountain West conference championships for Boise State. And Cam Camper was the guy this year. All the focus was on Ashton Jeanty, and here was this quiet Maddox Madsen to Cameron Camper connection. So much so that, we talk about with the receivers especially, the guys who are the burners or they have the prototypical body, the kind of size that Baylor wants and all that kind of thing. And Cam Camper is one of those guys who's kind of in between all of that. He's not the fastest guy in the draft. He's not the biggest guy in the draft or the portal in this case. But the dude's just a football player, okay? All right, 6'3", 200 pounds. First off, that's not bad size. That's pretty good size. But it's not like, oh my God, he's a specimen. The dude just gets better by the year, right? The dude's he's just a baller. He had an injury in 2023, but in his 2 full seasons at Boise State, he's garnered over 100 catches. 46 as a freshman, 46 for 569 as a freshman. And this year as the team's leading receiver, 58 catches, 903 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like that dude instantly comes in and fits right in on the other side opposite of Josh Cameron. You know, like that's easy money of, big time. I don't want to say favorite target for Sawyer Robertson, but big time target for Sawyer Robertson. To go by the number, to compare it, by the way, I mean, Josh Cameron had basically the same amount of catches, 58 for Camper, 52 for Cameron, 754 yards, 10 touchdowns for Josh Cameron, obviously a red zone machine. So actually, if Cam Camper came in, he would be the leading receiver from last year with 58 catches and 903 yards. So all that talk about Ashton Genty, about how great he was and how great this Baylor offense was. Here's a guy who's almost forgotten in the Boise State offense that would fit right in a great Jake Spavital, Sawyer Robertson-led offense here at Baylor. And I talked about kind of the inside track. That's because he's a Texas guy. Okay, Lancaster, high school, kind of very underrated in high school to the point where, well, actually, I shouldn't say underrated because I didn't watch him in high school. Under-recruited probably. He started at JUCO. And then he went to Indiana and then Boise State. So he's been a couple of different places, and certainly Indiana's in a much better spot than it was when he left for Boise State. We're talking about 2 playoff teams there. But we see this all the time, and guys want to come closer to home. I mean, we just saw it with Calvin Simpson-Hunt. Waxahachie kid goes to a big-time Big Ten powerhouse, goes and wins a national championship, but didn't see a lot of the field defensively. And now he wants to come back. I'll throw you into the time machine for a really good one. If we're going to talk about the Northwest, Lake Seastrunk, Temple High, goes up to Oregon, not getting the carries that he wants there, comes down to Baylor, becomes a legend for Art Briles' teams that wins back-to-back Big 12 championships. Of course, he was only there for one of them, but you know what I mean? Becomes a legend at Baylor. I think there's a scenario for that with Cam Camper. Now, I don't know how much the coaching staff is really focusing on the portal at this point because they probably just said last week, hey, we got our guy. There might be a couple, here and there going into the portal. In this case, Camper pulling away from the draft. But they might have just been like, we'll wait till spring ball. Because to be totally honest with you guys, Baylor does not need much. It doesn't need much else through the portal. I think they need another receiver. I would like to see another pass rusher, but there's not a ton they still need to go out and get in the portal. And part of that is because they got young guys in the portal last year at some of these positions, guys who didn't see a ton of time this year. But like we thought Sidney Fugar was going to be that way, not the youngest guy, but Colton Thomason, certainly tackle from A&M who still has a couple years of eligibility left as a former 4-star. Cam Camper would be 1 year. But I think it's something to look at. It could be one of those cases where it comes across Dave Aranda's desk and he's like, oh, now that guy came available. Why don't we kick the tires there? So I think they're probably about at the end and focusing on the guys they have in the room right now and are heading towards spring ball. But when a player of this kind of caliber and this kind of production comes into the fold this late, I think it's certainly something that is worth taking a look at. And I'm sure Baylor's doing their due diligence on it with how successful they've been in that portal space. So anyway, it also kind of goes with the recruiting momentum that Baylor's had. And they had it with class 2025. It's certainly well on its way in 2026. We'll talk to you about how this newest commitment is going to open up a ton of things on the recruiting trail. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, this message and this show is brought to you by Game Time. Guys, you know how much I love Game Time. Like, seriously, every time. In fact, I just bought the tickets today on Game Time to go to that hockey game next week. But you're looking at like NFL playoff games. There's nothing like that. World Series games, big-time playoff games. I always say, if you have a chance to go to the game, do it. You're never going to regret going to the game. I spent $600 to go see my team play in the NBA Finals, and they lost by 40. I don't regret it. It was awesome. The energy, the excitement, the connection you get with other fans being there, it's unmatched. Okay. I still remember some of the best games I've been to, no matter how much I spent on it, no matter how much they lost by. It's about being there. This year, Game Time makes it even easier to be there and create those unforgettable moments with their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you can focus on what matters most. Being there. I used it literally this morning to buy this tickets next week. Blackhawks Oilers, great matchup. Connor McDavid versus Connor Bedard. And you know what, guys? I put in the all-in pricing, and then I look at the top three. They're finding me the best deals. Amazing deal. Great deal. Great deal. Like, you don't need to look past that. They're going to tell you what the best deals are. They're not screwing you over. That's why I love Game Time so much. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Obviously, the big news around Baylor and recruiting was the London Smith commitment that came up this week. I did a whole live on it. So if you haven't seen that segment for a full breakdown, I would definitely recommend checking that out on the YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. It's going to be on the same feed. A big win for Baylor. Like, truly. What one recruit typically doesn't make the class unless it's a 5-star quarterback. But this is a real good step for this team and this program. Here you have a guy in your own backyard, first check, a guy who's really talented and really highly rated and highly recruited by the best programs in America. 2 checks. 3, Baylor legacy, check. And 4th, which we haven't seen yet, but will probably be there, is London Smith is enough of a name in Texas football recruiting that other players will start to be like, oh, we could team up and do something here. The sensational 6, man. We did a whole segment on it the other day with Sydney. Chase Campbell from Friendship, another 4-star receiver, guy who plays the same position, same class. And he's like, heck yeah, man, let's do it. Let's do this thing. Like, all these guys giving London praise on social media. It's really nice to see. But all of those things are big checks for Baylor because, honestly, London Smith is not that much different from DJ Lagway in terms of all of those things, right? DJ was a little bit higher recruited, right? And a 5-star quarterback is different from a high 4-star wide receiver, just in terms of publicity and what that can do for a program. And you're seeing it. Like, DJ Lagway being at Florida is probably keeping Billy Napier in a job right now. The fact that he's still there on campus, like, people check to make sure he's on campus every day so that Billy Napier will keep his job. And all of those things, like, DJ is a Baylor legacy, actually grew up a Baylor fan. You know, London Smith posted the picture of him as a kid with RG3. DJ Lagway had one of those too. Dad's played at Baylor, and Baylor put in real hard pushes for both of them. And DJ picked Florida over Baylor. Baylor was on the table. They didn't get picked. And this one went differently. That's the biggest thing. Like, London Smith, like DJ Lagway, had offers from everywhere. Texas, Alabama, Oregon, Auburn, Oklahoma, all of them. He could have had his choice of anywhere in the country to go, and he picked Baylor. So 2 years ago, coming off a 6-7 season, and what would eventually get worse, right, to a 3-9, Baylor couldn't do that for DJ Lagway. You know, he goes to the game against Kansas State in 22, and they get their butts kicked, and they miss out on him. And now the momentum is swung completely the other way. Baylor's coming off a good season, probably should be better, even better in 2025 than they were in 2024. London Smith goes to a game that they win by 4 touchdowns against Air Force, albeit against Air Force, but Sawyer Robertson and Bryson Washington have breakout days, and he can see the vision here. And he's obviously been to plenty of Baylor games in his youth as well. So that's huge. And the recruits that will follow in the weeks, days, months are also going to be huge. But the other thing too is I talk a lot about this when it comes to quarterback. and how teams are going to handle that going forward, whether they're going to go after the blue chip recruits, the 4-star, 5-star guys and develop them. Receiver is another one like that, where you're seeing top teams really dip a lot into the portal. But then again, there's programs like Ohio State that just won the national championship that develops their receivers. They don't go in the portal for receivers. Notre Dame, same thing. Team they played in the national championship game. They don't typically go to the portal for receivers, but they didn't on this year's team. So how is Baylor going to handle that? We already know the way they're going at quarterback, but receiver, that's a position you can get a guy in there pretty quickly. And now you've got some talent there. Like Jaden Porter could be filling some holes for the team this year. And in the next 2 years, you're talking about, Taz Williams and London Smith and possibly Chase Campbell. That's a big deal. And so do they dip more into the portal the next couple of years to solidify that the way they look at quarterback, or do they develop these blue chip guys? I think it's fascinating. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe. And before we get out of here, I need to thank you guys so much. It's the last day of January. We didn't even need the 31st day to get there. Locked On Baylor set our new personal record for views in a month in January. And that is thanks so much, obviously, to you guys. Like, I talked about it at the end of December. I can't believe how much this channel has grown and how many people we've been able to reach through this. Never in my wildest dreams did I think a Baylor channel could do that much. But you guys certainly show it every time we're live. You show it every day. I know it's a bit fatigued in January because the numbers did start to go down in mid to late January. But we're going to keep bringing you fresh Baylor content all the time. We're going to look at Baylor. We're going to look at the Big 12. We're not going to stop doing that because it all ties into the team that we love so much. But you guys, thank you so much for helping this channel grow so much. It really means a lot to me. This channel has become a big part of my life since I've had it. Gone through other jobs that are on the side of this. I still have a couple other jobs with it. Don't worry. But this channel has become so important to me, and it's because of you guys and the community that we've built here. So thank you for that. We went years without going 100,000 views in a month. We've done that 2 months in a row and set the record for views in a month in January. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you making it your first listen today and every day. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Fresh Baylor content twice a day, 5 days a week. I mean, what more can you ask for? We'll see you later on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.